Welcome back to New Rockstars, I'm Erik Voss, and Loki Episode 1 has arrived, bringing with it a freaking glossary of new Marvel terms and insane Easter eggs, but just as many, if not more details, are hidden in the end credit sequence of every episode, and looking closely at these might clue us in even more about what this series is really all about, so I'm gonna comb through these end credits frame by frame to explain what all this stuff means. We begin with Loki's case file, his thumbprints that the TVA used to match Loki to his crimes, but underneath it is a report referring to Loki's plea agreement, it looks like. It's a bit hard to make out, but it seems to reference him pleading guilty to count 2, but not to all of it, maybe since Loki admitted guilt to being the god of mischief and finding this all tedious, but not to violating the sacred timeline. Yeah, it's a bit weird for names to be redacted though, since the TVA seems like a secret organization even Loki didn't know about, so what public scrutiny would they have to worry about? Unless some higher ups at the TVA are keeping secrets from their own ranks. It's a total conspiracy!
Total conspiracy.
Remember that? Directed by Kate Herron, appears over a coffee pot labeled Fresh 800 BC. Maybe a nod to Herron's coffee drinking, but also a joke about how the TVA apparently drinks discontinued beverages from the past, like Josta and Boku. Coffee wasn't reportedly drank until like the 15th century, but who knows, maybe it was way older and just forgotten from history. Then we see another TVA poster, hunters and analysts working in tandem. A tall female Minuteman pulled out a high five to a wormy little analyst who is low-fiving, sacred timeline dividing them. Yeah, they look like they hate each other and clearly do not connect, reflecting how the TVA desk workers like Casey don't really get along with Hunter B-15, and that bureaucratic weakness could get exploited by Loki and by others. But before I continue, thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. Use the links below to download Raid to your mobile phone or your PC. Over 76 million people have played Raid. That's 4 times the population of New York City, and proof that there's something to Raid for everyone. What I really like about the game is the character design. The artists at Raid are famous for their attention to detail and incredible design. Like, check out Iron Brago, one of the strongest orc champions, and he looks like it. He's got a chainmail beard and like skull shoulder pads. I don't really know who to look at. Raid has got a jam-packed schedule of events this summer and tons of new content, new champions getting released, a new rotation of the Doom Tower, all kinds of tournaments and events. If you want to get a huge head start in Raid, all you have to do is hit the link in the description and you'll get an epic hero, Tronoru, who's amazing in the Doom Tower, 200,000 silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard so that you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in-game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here. And once you're in, you can find me in-game under the name New Rock 2020, and if you're fast, you can join my clan. And it's that easy, just click the link in the description, I'll see you in the game. Now, to the right of that are some pinned equations and figures. You actually get clearer shots of this later in the sequence. Figure R shows these variants, a stick figure with 9 duplicates branching off from him. Remember that number 9. But then beneath that, drawings of wormholes, aka Einstein Rosen bridges. And then beneath that, hold on to your butts, Schrdingers Equation. So, Erwin Schrödinger was a theoretical physicist known for pioneering quantum mechanics and the many worlds theory. Disputing Einstein's explanation of Newtonian physics, he really was all about trying to quantify what he called the waveform of subatomic particles, ultimately positing that bodies can exist simultaneously in multiple parallel realities. You might know his thought experiment Schrodinger's cat, in which Schrödinger suggested that if he were to put his cat in a closed box with 2 dishes of food, one of them poisoned, while that lid stays closed and you can't observe the cat, that cat is both simultaneously alive and dead in 2 parallel reality states. Now, Marvel Studios is clearly well versed in these concepts. Eric Selvig's Chalkboard in Thor: The Dark World referenced Schrodinger's cat. Ant-Man and the Wasp, the movie that mocked quantum everything and set up Kang the Conqueror's home city of Chronopolis in the quantum realm, also discussed this idea from Bill Foster.
The object in question would be both in and out of phase with multiple parallel realities.
And an Avengers Endgame built on this, consulting experts in quantum mechanics to produce its explanation of branch realities, which is how we got dialogue like,
Tony, after everything you've seen, is anything really
Quantum
impossible?
fluctuation messes with the Planck scale, which then triggers the Deutsch proposition. Can we agree on that?
And now Loki is building on Endgame's timeline logic, with Loki's escape from the time heist creating a branch timeline that Captain America never restored, making Loki a variant on the TVA's shit list. list. And by the way, after episode 1, if that background variant was Peggy Carter, maybe even Cap's decision to stay in the past with Peggy created another Nexus violation, a branch timeline that the TVA plans to prune. But anyway, back to this credit sequence. Nearby those equations is a figure showing overlapping and concentric circles, around 9 of them, at least including that donut at the top and another circle inside it, with a line pointing directly to the center labeled TVA, possibly showing us the location of the TVA in between the 9 realms. And then to the far left, a TVA archive apocalyptic event report. Under event details, failure to intervene in dire circumstances, and then beneath that, FRI, capital F, maybe Friday, or the person that day of the week is based on the Norse figure of Frigga. So this could be a report about Loki's failure to intervene in the Dark Elves' attack on Asgard. Later in the sequence, another apocalyptic event report describes Loki's hijacking of the Seattle flight as DB Cooper in 1971, which we saw in the episode. So the TVA considers each of these apocalyptic events, which maybe could connect these kind of reports to Loki's upcoming interference with the destruction of Pompeii, which was truly apocalyptic to those people. Exec producer Steven Broussard shows up over a thick reference book. Underneath that book is another apocalyptic event report based on the formatting of it. And then notice there's a tab in this reference book that opens up to Atlas. So maybe someone is researching past apocalyptic events in world history, like Pompeii. Exec producer Kate Herron over some light up switches on a chronomonitor board, each button labeled with these 3 character codes, which maybe correspond to the buttons on the TVA elevator, especially since the orange one at the bottom of that board appears to show Miss Minutes, as we have an elevator button for Miss Minutes. Co-exec producer Kevin R. Wright over this diagram of this variant branching down into 5 variant figures, his circle head toggling into a square, triangle, pentagon, hexagon, and X. We actually see these guys again later. This is probably some textbook or some handbook explaining the whole variant process. And the number of these guys does parallel the yellow bow-tied man in Miss Minutes cartoon, who also spawned the same number of variants. So another page shows a figure running through a portal with the words effects on the left, and then you can make out the words a strip of paper, giving it then the ends back together, and then draw a line along the center, and then runs along both. Yeah, maybe this is explaining how the TVA portals through time with the strip of paper bending and its ends tying back together, essentially describing a Mobius strip, which Tony Stark used to decode time travel back in Endgame. You see line producer Trish Stannard over Kablooey Gum, flavor blueberry. This is all in a TVA evidence bag, so yeah, that temporal aura analysis Mobia ordered will probably end up yielding something. Then edited by Paul Zucker over the TVA Holo Projector 35, which by the way is actually a Weltron 2004 Spaceball 8-track stereo from 1971. And we get a close-up of the film strip because that's how editors used to have to manually clip and paste film strips in the days of linear editing. My breakdown has an interesting Easter egg of something written on this film strip. Now the UPMs and assistant directors show over the elevator buttons, and notice how the screen jumps from TSY, FHF, 2WE, IUL, and right when it hits 1EJ, access denied. So some part of the TVA must be off limits, and maybe this floor is for that nightmare department that Mobius mentioned. Maybe a tie into the character Nightmare from the Doctor Strange world. Then visual effects producer Allison Paul over more TVA paperwork where a Mind Stone is actually being used as a paperweight, as Casey said many of them do. Then Eugene Cordero's name appears over one of the TVA clocks with suddenly many alternate colored hands. Note that the green one is the longest and patiently ticks its way backwards. Maybe like our Loki variant patiently defies the natural flow of time. Tara Strong's name appears over a binder for, if you look at that label, redacted reports. Again, not sure why anything would need to get redacted in an organization facing zero public scrutiny, unless total conspiracy. And then this archive drawer with number 9 circled. Now, as we saw on the cubicle wall earlier, there's this geometric shape with numbered corners, but the corner with 9 is circled there. There could be a connection here with the 9 realms. Maybe 9 is the maximum number of variants one can have. That will just be the magic number we look for in Loki. Now, on Mobius's desk is Wake magazine. Looks like a jet ski and water sports magazine. And if you look closely, offers a free poster inside. Heyo! And then we end on the faces of the timekeepers that we saw in the courtroom, and we specifically punch in on the middle one. Now, compared to the other 2 faces, mustachy being the timekeeper Xanth and stalk eyebrows being Vorth, that leaves this middle one as Ast. But here, maybe it's a perspective thing, but doesn't Ast's right eye look like it's drooping down? Like right before we cut to black? Now, I know I've compared Ast's appearance here in the courtroom to the face of Jonathan Majors playing Kang the Conqueror in Quantumania, a character romantically linked with Justice Renslayer, framed right in this figure's lips. But I'm just saying, by closing the credits on this stroke-suffering timekeeper, clearly the show wants us to keep a less droopy eye on them. So support this channel by checking out our new Loki-inspired merch options, like the shirt Loki Out of Time. Looks so great, can't wait to get mine. NewRockstarsMerch.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars for breakdowns of everything Loki. Thanks for watching. Bye.